Hey there, thanks for being here. It's the first week of July already in 2024, and that means it's time for my monthly Cape Coral real estate market update video. As you know, I do one of these videos every single month. Basically, what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you some of the facts and the figures that the Cape Coral real estate market has put up in the last month. So we're going to be talking about numbers from June 2024. I'm going to give you those facts and figures. I'm going to give you some analysis on them. I'm going to break these down by different property categories. We'll talk about single family homes, off-water and Gulf access. We'll talk about condos. We'll talk about lots. We'll talk about a lot of different things, and then I'll wrap up with some advice. Maybe if you're looking to be a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market, or if you are a seller looking to sell a property in the current Cape Coral real estate market. So be sure to stick around to the end for that. If you're not familiar with this channel, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a near 20-year resident and full-time real estate broker here in Cape Coral and Southwest Florida. I do one of these videos every single month where I give you this information on the Cape Coral real estate market. But these are in addition to the weekly videos that I put out on just really good general information topics regarding Southwest Florida. They don't always have to do with real estate. Sometimes they're just really good information, maybe about insurance or maybe about something new that's coming to the area. So if you are interested in Southwest Florida, maybe you're thinking of moving here, moving to Punta Gorda, or moving to Cape Coral, moving to Fort Myers, I invite you to reach over and hit that subscribe button, because I think you'll get a lot out of these videos. I put a lot of time and effort into these every single week, just trying to give you some really good information and provide some value to you with these videos, because I know if I can do that, when the time does come where you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, maybe you'll think of me and reach out. My contact information, of course, is right there on the screen, and it's also down in the description of this video. You can call, text, or email me anytime. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about your real estate goals and tell you a little bit about how I can help you out with those. So with that being said, let's dive right into these numbers. I always like to start these out just for fun by giving you the lowest sales of the month for condos and single family homes, and then the highest sales for condos and single family homes. It's just kind of a fun thing to see what the expensive and the inexpensive properties are selling for these days. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with the lowest sales in all of Cape Coral for the month of June. All right, so the lowest condo to sell in the month of June 2024 was this one over here in the southeast section of Cape Coral, 402 Southeast 42nd Terrace, unit number 2. This is in Country Club Estates is what the condo association is called down there. And this one was listed for 134 days. It was listed at $139,000 even, sold for $129,000 on June the 10th. It was a pretty small unit. It's just 848 square feet, little 1-bedroom, 1-bath. A little bit older too. It was built in 1968, which a lot of those condos over in that section of the city are a little bit older like this. And this one was also a 55 and older community. It's an age-restricted community, and sometimes those condo units are a little bit cheaper than their counterparts that don't have that age restriction in there. But certainly a nice unit in here. Was completely redone on the inside. Really nice stainless steel appliances. Like I said, completely remodeled inside. Has some nice amenities in there. The fees aren't too bad in there. They're $326 now. Looks like they're going up to about $4.25 here shortly. Just like all the other condos out there, these fees are getting a little high these days, which is one of the reasons we're having some trouble in the condo market. We're going to get into that here in a minute, but definitely a nice unit over there, especially at $129,000. And so congratulations to the buyers and the sellers for the sale of that nice little condo down there in the southeast for $129,000. That was our low condo for the month of June. All right, let's hop over to the lowest single family home to sell in the entire month of June for the entire city of Cape Coral. That's this one. We're up in the northwest this time. This single family home was listed at $199,000 and sold in 3 days on June the 27th for $175,000. And it's a little single family home, 1,303 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, built in 1989. Did have a 2-car garage, but man, needed a lot of work obviously in there. Almost an entire gut job is what it looks like. But you know, at $175,000, that looks pretty attractive even for homes in this condition. So definitely congratulations to the buyers and the sellers for this one. I'm sure that seller is eager to get in there and fix that place up and either put it back on the market or maybe make it a nice rental property up there in the Northwest. If you've watched my previous videos, you know I love the Northwest. I love what the future holds for that area of Cape Coral. So definitely congrats to the buyers and the sellers on the low sale for single-family homes at $175,000 in the month of June. All right, let's get to the fun ones. Let's take a look at the highest sales of the month for the entire city of Cape Coral. All right, so let's start off with the highest condo sale of the entire month of June for the city of Cape Coral, and we are back this month. I think this was last month's top sale for condos as well, but we're back over here in Cape Harbor, which is a beautiful deepwater yacht basin community down here in the southwest section of Cape Coral, and this is one of their new construction projects they have going on right now. This was part of the Marina Villas Phase 1, 5816 Shell Cove Drive, Unit 121. This one was listed for just under $1.2 million and sold for $1,199,000. This is one of the 3-story townhomes in there. This wasn't an in unit. It's on the water. It's got a beautiful private dock there across the canal from the preserve with a 16,000-pound boat lift. It's got a private elevator. I wish there was some actual pictures in here because these units are really, really nice, but it comes with a lot of upgrades in it, like impact windows and doors and things like that. And it's certainly in a great location, just quick access out to open water there. But this unit sold back on June the 4th, and again, part of Marina Villas down there. This was in Phase 1. They've already begun Phase 2, and they're going to have some more of these 3-story townhomes on the water there in Cape Harbor, and definitely a beautiful unit. So congratulations to the buyers on that beautiful new 3-story townhome on the water there in Cape Harbor. All right, moving on to the highest single-family home sale in all of Cape Coral. We're just going to move a little bit to the north of Cape Harbor there to this brand new construction custom home here at 3812 Surfside Boulevard. This one was listed for $2.99 million. It's right there on the Spreader Canal, which is a beautiful wide canal with the mangrove preserve on one side. So it's got some great views, especially from the second story of this house. But this was only on the market for 24 days, and it sold on June 14th for $2.75 million. That was the top sale for the month of June. It's a 4-bedroom plus a den. It's got 5 baths in it. Again, brand new construction, just under 3,600 square feet of living area. I've got quite a few really nice upgrades in this property, but $2.75 million was the top sale for this month. We didn't get up above $3 million for the month of June. I think just this month and maybe one other month in the last 8 or 9 months have we not had a $3+ million sale. Usually more than 1, 2 or 3 of them. But $2.75 million is not too shabby, and this is a beautiful home there on Surfside, right there on the Spreader Canal. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers for the sale of this beautiful home, and I'm sure the buyers are going to be very, very happy with this property. All right, so let's dive right into these numbers. I always start out with some general market stats, and then I'm going to break these down by different property category. Like I said, we're going to do off-water single-family homes first, then we'll go over to golf access homes, we'll move over to condos, talk about vacant lots, and then we'll finish up with the rental market. The rental market's becoming an increasingly important part of this real estate market, so I definitely want to cover that, so make sure you stick around to the end for that. But in terms of the total market, what I'm going to give you is some of the sales stats, and then I'm going to give you some of the inventory stats, because obviously there's a lot of news out there right now about our inventory and some important movement in that regard that I want to tell you about. But let's talk about just total sales across the board. This is for everything in residential, so basically anything single family home, on water, off water, condo, all that stuff, basically anything that's not a vacant lot in the residential Cape Coral real estate market. So let's start off with this graph right here. This is basically an 18-month graph. It goes back to January 2023, but this is the number of sales total that we saw in the Cape Coral real estate market for residential. Last month, we had 513 sales total. That's down almost 100, a little over 100 from May of this year. We were at 612 previous month in May of 2024. So it always comes down this year, this time of the year, as we get into the slower summer months. So that's to be expected. We actually had a pretty strong month overall. If you can take a look at this graph, I mean, We sold a few more properties in the first 6 months of this year than we actually did last year. It doesn't feel like the market's doing a little better this year than it did last year, but we're definitely seeing a healthy number of properties transfer right now. We had 513 in the month of June. It was 524 last June, but in May of 2024, we had 612 versus only 600 in May of 2023. So we're still putting up some healthy numbers in terms of the numbers of sales. So with that being said, let's jump over to the median price. And again, we're talking about all different types of residential properties. They're this all-encompassing. We'll break these down by category here in a second. But the total market median price for Cape Coral in the month of June was $385,000. That's down just very, very slightly from $390,000 in the month of May. And you can see from this chart, we're going all the way back to January of 2022. The high point on this chart actually came in June of 2022 when we were at $439,000 for median sale price. And we're down just a little bit of that in 2 years ago, exactly in June of 2022, we were at $429,213. So at $385,000, we're down just about 10.3% in 2 years. Now this time last year, in June of 2023, we were sitting at $403,640. So we're down a little bit from last year, about 4.6% across the board. It represents about $18,640 for the average sale price out there. And again, we're talking about all different categories, so we'll break that down. There are some that do a little bit better than that, some that don't do as well as that. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But so let me move over to the active inventory. And again, we're talking about all different categories of property. This is the entire residential market. Take a look at this graph. Again, this goes back to January 2023. You saw we peaked out earlier this year. We had quite a few properties on the market. We had that big ascending jump in inventory. It peaked out basically in April of this year at 4,299 active available properties on the market. Now we've come down a little bit since then, and we're sitting at 3,940 right now, but we're still up about 28.5% from where we were this time last year. So we've made some improvement in the last couple of months based on where it kind of peaked out, and we're looking like we're on the downward slope of that inventory now, which is a good sign for this market. But we're still up quite a considerable amount from this time last year, about, again, 28.5% in terms of the active inventories. And I'll break this down. This is part of the numbers that I'll give you for these different categories. And let's jump over to that right now. Let's start off with off-water single-family homes. So basically, these are homes that are not on a body of water. It's not a Gulf access home. It's not a freshwater or lakefront home. These are just basically sort of what you would consider to be our entry-level product here in the city of Cape Coral. It makes up the predominant section of our Cape Coral real estate market. So let's get right into those numbers now. All right, so again, off-water single-family homes, that makes up the majority of our Cape Coral real estate market on a monthly basis. Let's dive right into these numbers. First of all, I'm not going to differentiate between the ones that have pools and don't have pools, but I'll break that down for you here in a minute. And this first graph is basically telling you how many properties total of these that we sold in the last year and a half or so. And if you take a look at this, again, we're down a little bit compared to last month, but we still put up some pretty healthy numbers in the first 6 months of this year. And in June of this year, last month, we had 347 of these single-family off-water homes transfer. That's down from 401 in the month of May. But we were at just about even with that last year. In June of 2023, we sold 353. So we're only about 6 down from where we were the last time, or last year at this time. So still plenty of healthy numbers in the off-water single-family home market. Of these, they're roughly about a third of them do have pools, and a third of them don't. It represents about 112 homes with pools and 235 homes without a pool. But for these 347 sales, let's jump over and take a look at this graph, which is the median price for the month of June. And again, this one goes back 18 months as well. And you can see this has been pretty flat. This category of property has probably been the flattest. It's been the most consistent of any of the different categories that I'm going to cover today. But we're sitting at $369,900 was the median price for off-water single-family homes in the month of June 2024. We were at $383,000 in June of last year of 2023. So 383,000 last year to 369,900 this year. It represents about a decrease in price of 3.4%. So again, not a really meaningful drop in prices for this category of property. So if we want to break these numbers down again by pool homes and non-pool homes, the non-pool homes for off-water single-family homes, it's about $20,000 less than the median right now. It's $349,999. That's about the average for an off-water home without a pool right now in the city of Cape Coral. Now, if you want to talk about homes with pools, that jumps up to $432,500 was the median for this particular month, and that's down a little bit from the last few months. The first few months of this year, we've been consistently about $100,000 over what the non-pool homes are going for these days. And if you've caught some of my previous monthly market report videos, I've told you if you're looking for something to do, if you don't have a pool, you're looking for something to do to your house to improve the value, that's one big thing that you can do. If you can go out and spend $75,000 on a decent pool package on it, the numbers suggest that you're going to get about $100,000 more in resale value for that home with a pool on it versus without. So it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're looking for something to do to improve your existing non-pool home. So it's good to see still healthy numbers there. Like I said, it's been pretty flat. I want to break these numbers down a little bit further because I found it really interesting. I want to talk about new construction homes versus older homes that are older than 10 years old. But let's start off with the new construction homes because this is pretty interesting. Take a look at this graph. Again, we're going back about 18 months. And in spite of the broader market where we're seeing some softening in pricing, this has been pretty strong. We've actually seen a little bit of an increase in the new construction median sale values here. So in June of 2024, the median price for a brand new home off water in Cape Coral was $370,500, and that's up from about $350,000 this time last year. So that represents about a 5 to 6% increase in actual median sale prices for these new construction homes versus what we saw last year. And again, that's sort of the inverse of what we've seen in a lot of these other categories, particularly the older resale homes that we'll take a look at in a minute. So 5 to 6% increase is pretty interesting, and I think there's several reasons for that. And one of the reasons is these numbers are not taking into consideration some of these really excellent builder incentives that the builders are offering right now. So when you're talking about a $370,000 house, that might be the purchase price, but if that builder is giving you $30,000 towards your closing costs and credits and prepaids and things like that, or maybe they're buying your rate down, they're spending $15,000 to buy your rate down to get you a little bit better mortgage rate on that house. That's not taking those concessions into these sale prices. So I think that's maybe one of the reasons that we're seeing a little bit of an increase in price. They may be a little bit inflated versus what these consumers are actually paying for these properties when it comes to getting some of those incentives. But I still think it's very, very interesting that we're seeing a little bit of an increase in new construction sale prices. Of those total 347 off-water homes that sold last month, 116 of them were brand new construction, were these 2023 or 2024. So there's still a big healthy chunk of this category of property in this market are brand new construction homes. Most of these new construction homes too are non-pool homes. In fact, there was only 14 new construction homes that sold last month off water that actually had a pool with them. So this is very, very much a what I would consider to be the entry-level market. And these production builders like D.R. Horton, Lennar, companies like that are pumping out a lot of these production houses, and they're selling a lot of them because they're offering some really good incentives. And I've got some lists of really good builders that are offering some really good incentives. So if you are in the market for a new construction property in this price range, get a hold of me and I'll tell you about it. They just dropped one that was 4.99% financing. I mean, that's incredible right now. If you went out and got a traditional mortgage, it'd probably be around 7.5% right now. So to get under 5, it's a pretty good deal. So hit me up if you're interested in something like that. I'll tell you all about it. But definitely interesting to see. We've had a few points increase in the last year for these new construction homes, even in spite of those incentives that they've been offering. But let's move over and talk about resale homes that are basically older than 10 years. Take a look at this graph. So this is the exact opposite of what we saw with those new construction. For these properties, for these resale properties older than 10 years old, we were $319,000. in the month of June 2024, and that represents about a 3.5% decrease from this time last year. We were at 330,000 for this particular segment of the Cape Coral real estate market this time last year, 330,000, and now we're at 319, which is about a 3.5% decrease. Keep in mind too, I always talk about this and I kind of harp on it on these videos every single month, but you know, real estate's traditionally been a really solid hedge against inflation, and we've had a couple of years here we've experienced some significant inflation. I think the numbers, the government's numbers in the last 12 months is about 4%. So if you consider that real estate holds its own against that inflation, that 3.5% decrease is really more about, you know, 7.5%. When it comes down to it, when you take into consideration those inflation numbers. So we have seen some softening in pricing, and I think it's a little bit more than people realize when they take into consideration those inflation numbers. But very interesting that we are down a little bit for these resales and up a little bit for the new construction properties. Let's dive over to the inventory, the single family off-water inventory right now. And again, this sort of mirrors what we saw in the broader overall market. But you can see we had several months there where we were increasing in the last 18 months, and we peaked out in the first few months of this year. We actually peaked out in April of this year. We had 2,437 total active properties on the market in this category in April of this year, and we are down almost a couple hundred. We're down to 2,241 in the month of June. So we're heading in the right direction on the inventory front, and that's really good to see because you know, it was getting a little concerning there for a while to see that month-over-month increase in inventory, but it looks like we've peaked out and we're coming back down to where we need to be to have this stability in the market a little more. But we're still up about 23% from where we were this time last year. There were only 1,824 of these properties on the market in June of 2023, so we're up a full 23%. From where we were last year. So we need to keep an eye on that. I would anticipate it's going to continue to come down a little bit. And we're going to talk about rentals. A lot of these are, you know, these homes are selling, but a lot of them are coming off the market completely, and they're not selling, they're coming off the market, and they're either becoming rentals or they're just, you know, folks are just, you know, decided to stay there and just live in the house for another year or two, which is good for the overall market. You need to price your property right, or you need to just get it off the market and do something else with it. But still up pretty high on the inventory front, but it's good to see that it's coming down a little bit. That 2,241 total active listings on the market in the month of June represents about 6 months of inventory in this category. When I say months of inventory, all it's really doing is we're correlating the number of properties that are selling in a given month versus the number that are available. So, you know, we talked about there was 347 of these particular types of homes that sold in the month of June, and there's 2,241 of them on the market. So if no others came on the market and we just kept that rate of 347 a month, it would take us 6 months to get through all of that inventory. So when I say months of inventory, that's the statistic that I'm using. That's how we get to that number right there. So 6 months is not terribly bad in this category. Again, it's been a little bit healthier than some of the other categories you can see on this chart. I mean, we had that one outlier in January. We don't ever sell very many properties in January because people are busy with the holidays and things like that. But 6 has been fairly consistent over the last year and a half. We had a few months there where we were a little bit lower than that last year in 2023, but we've been pretty consistent so far. So overall, this category is probably doing the best out of any category right now, these off-water single-family homes. We sell a lot of them. There's a lot of them on the market, but we're doing a little bit better on the inventory front. So still looking pretty healthy in this regard. But with that being said, let's jump over to everybody's favorite category, which is the Gulf access single-family homes. So these are homes that are on a Gulf access canal, and you can get out to open water. Let's take a look at these. All right, so Gulf access single-family homes. That's Gulf with a U as in access to the Gulf of Mexico, not golf with an O, as in swinging a club around. But these are a pretty important part of the Cape Coral real estate market. Obviously, we're very well known for our canal homes here in the city of Cape Coral. So let's jump right into this. This first graph are the numbers of sales, and we're actually down a little bit in the month of June. We had a pretty significant drop, as you can see here. We only sold 73 of these single-family homes on a Gulf access canal in the month of June. That's down from 108 in May and 105 in April. But if you can see, going back to this time last year, that's pretty typical. We see a big drop off as we get into the summer months. This is this property category. The buyers are predominantly made up of seasonal residents or maybe retirees, and they're certainly much more active in the winter and spring months versus the summer months. So we always see a drop off there. I'm not really concerned about that. But we're doing about as well as we did in June of last year. So we had 76 sales in June of 2023, and we had 73 this year, so just 3 fewer. Did want to just break these numbers down by the different areas in Cape Coral where these Gulf access homes are selling. Of course, there are no Gulf access homes in the Northeast, but there are Gulf access homes in the Southeast, Southwest, and Northwest. And just as a percentage of these 43% of these sold in the Southeast, or in the Southeast section of Cape Coral. 33% of these Gulf access homes that sold last month were in the Southwest, and 24% were in the Northwest. And we'll get into the pricing here in a minute, but a lot of the Northwest Gulf access homes that are selling are brand new or fairly new construction properties, a little higher end. So we'll talk about that in a second. But let's go over to the median price across the board for the entire city for these Gulf access homes. And we're down a little bit in June from where we were in May. We had a median price across the board of $720,000 for this property category in June. That's down from $811 in May, so we were a little bit higher. So as you can tell here on this chart, the high point actually was February of this year. We actually peaked out at $852,500 in terms of median price in the month of February. So we're down a fair amount from there. There's really not enough data here to make any kind of inferences of any trends upward or downward. As you can tell, these median prices kind of go up and down any given month. And so even though we came down from 811 to 720 this month, when you look at this chart, it's really fairly flat. I mean, the low point in this chart was July of last year at 715. So we're around where we were in July of last year right now in June at 720. So these Gulf access homes are certainly still selling on a regular basis, and they're certainly keeping their value here, at least according to this chart. We'll see what happens later on this summer. I expect it to slow down just like it always does. We'll sell a few fewer in the summer months, as you could tell from that previous chart with in terms of the numbers of sales of Gulf access homes. But let me just break down these median sale prices by, again, the quadrants, the locations. So let's start with the Southeast. The median sale price for Gulf access homes in the Southeast was $710,000 in the month of June, and that's actually up a little bit from the mid 600s earlier this year. The Southeast, the predominant number of Gulf access homes that sell in the Southeast are a little bit older. That was one of the first areas here in the city of Cape Coral that was developed. You think about the yacht club down there in the extreme Southeast, a lot of those homes are 1950s and 60s. But even some of the other ones along Cornwallis or Savona or something like that, or even a little bit further north around the Del Prado corridor. A lot of those homes are 70s, 80s, occasionally 90s built homes, so they're a little bit older, and we tend to see the values are a little bit less in the Southeast versus some of these other areas where we see some newer properties. But $710,000 is actually up a little bit for the Southeast. If we move over to the Southwest, median price in the Southwest was $865,000. So again, 33% of these that sold in the Southwest, and they sold for a healthy amount at $865,000. Moving into the Northwest, we see some really surprising numbers. Again, there was only 24% of these 73 sales were in the Northwest, but the median price in the Northwest was $1.04 million. And the reason for that is it's not necessarily that sale prices are higher there versus what they are in the Southeast or Southwest, but there's just a lot more newer construction properties in the Northwest, some little higher end areas where they were built basically 2018, 2019 and newer, and the homes are selling for a little bit more in those areas. We haven't really seen too many older home resales for Gulf access homes in the Northwest as much. So that's why you're seeing such a higher median price in the Northwest. It's not necessarily that the values are stronger there. They're just newer construction, maybe a little bit larger and more updated homes that are selling in the Northwest. So again, across the board, these prices look pretty good. Let's move over to the inventory. Again, take a look at this graph. Again, we're going back 18 months here. Again, we peaked out. We had some significant increases there from 2023 into 2024, the early parts of 2024, and we peaked out in February where there was 904 of these properties on the market, and we're down a fair amount from them. So we've kind of peaked out in that February month. In those spring months, we kind of started to trickle down, and now we've seen some more significant reductions in inventory for this property category. We're sitting at 767 active Gulf Access single-family homes on the market in the month of June 2024. So again, we're down almost 140 or so, 130 maybe from February of this year. Now we're still up. If you look at this time last year, there was only 570 properties on the market in June of 2023. So we're still up 34.5%. We're not out of the woods with this inventory issue right now just yet, but we are heading in the right direction. And I anticipate we'll continue to see that as we get into the summer months. We're not going to sell a too extraordinary amount of Gulf Access single-family homes this summer, but some of these will start to trickle off the market. The folks will take it off the market with the intention of maybe putting it back on in the early part of next year when this particular market segment is a little more active. And then we're also seeing some of these properties even go over to the rental market. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, but head in the right direction on inventory. And if we take a look at this chart, which is the months of inventory, I talked about how we arrive at the months of inventory. We are sitting at about 11 months of inventory for Gulf Access homes. That'll go up a little more again during the summer when we're not selling as many of them, but 11 months is up from 8 months in May and April and 9 months in March. So it's not really alarming. This number's not terribly alarming. Again, we're going in the right direction on the inventory front. So we'll just keep an eye on it as we get into the summer months. But overall, Gulf Access seems to be holding their value fairly well. But again, we'll start to see that slowdown coming into the summer months right now. So with that being said, let's move over to condos. Condos are really taking a bad rap right now. They're kind of taking it on the chin. So let's get into these numbers. All right, so if you've caught my previous monthly market report videos, I've talked extensively about condos and the troubles that we're having with condos. Mainly it has to do with the fees going up. We've seen some pretty strong increases in HOA fees, monthly or quarterly HOA fees from going to 2023 to 2024, and that's kind of putting some pressure on the condo market, some downward pressure on pricing, and we've got some inventory issues there that we're going to talk about here in a second. But let's start off with just the number of sales total. So when I'm talking about condos, I'm talking across the board. So this is on water, off water, townhomes, mid-rise, high-rise, low-rise condos, anything that's basically not a single-family home or a manufactured home in the city of Cape Coral is what I'm lumping all into this category, because the numbers aren't big enough to really break it down any further than that. But let's take a look at this. We're down significantly. Condos, very much like Gulf Access homes, are very more stronger. We see stronger numbers in the winter months. Again, a lot of these folks are seasonal residents or retirees that are buying these condos, and so we typically see the first few months of the year a little bit more active than the rest of the year. But 40 total sales in the month of June of 2024. That's down ever so slightly from May. We only had 43 in May. And we're down pretty significantly from the early months of the spring. We peaked out this year in March of 2024 with 73 sales, and really March and April this year kind of saved our bacon when it comes to these condos, because we were setting up to have a very, very slow high season for condos, and that wasn't going to be good news. But we had a pretty good couple of months there. 73 sold in March and then 66 in April. But if you look at this, I mean, we're down a fair amount from these months last year. It was a little more consistent last year. We're actually not down too terribly much in terms of the number of sales last year versus the number of sales this year. In fact, the first 6 months of last year, we sold 305 condos in the first 6 months of 2023. We sold 292 in the first 6 months of this year. So we're down just 2.3% in terms of the number of sales. But like I said, if we didn't have really strong performing months in March and April, we'd be in a lot worse shape than that. But let's move over to the median price, because I think this kind of tells a bigger story here. So again, going back 18 months here, I've mentioned this before, but actually prices peaked out for condos in the spring months of 2023. Single family homes kind of generally peaked in 2022, but condos actually peaked in 2023. I think there was a few reasons for that, typically predominantly being we were right after the hurricane, so there was some folks that maybe thought those condos were a little bit safer, and so we had a little more demand for condos last year. But in terms of the sale prices, we had median sale price for condos last month was $262,500. That's pretty low compared to the year before, at least in terms of this category when compared to the other categories. June of 2023, we were at $284,500. So we're down roughly 8% in the last 12 months. And actually, last year it peaked out in April, where the condo median price in April was $305,000. So we're down a full 14% from that high point in April of 2023. Again, there's just some downward pressure on these condo prices right now. There's a lot of inventory out there and not as much demand. Again, those fees are kind of killing some folks, and especially the folks that are maybe on fixed income. When you virtually double their fees in the course of a couple of years, that creates some affordability issues, and it creates the need to sell those condos a little more. And so we've got some folks out there that need to sell, and that's causing prices to come down to try to meet with that weak demand right now. But down about 8% in the last 12 months. So from April, 14%. We're somewhere between 8 and 14% if you want to take everything into consideration. So a little soft on the pricing right now. But let's talk about the inventory. The inventory here, again, we peaked out in February at this chart. Had a pretty strong run up from January of 2023 to February, when we peaked out at 527. But we're down a little bit. Last month we had 476 condos actively on the market. But June of last year we only had 360,000. So we're up a full 32.25% from where we were this time last year. And even though we've come down, the inventory numbers has come down a little bit from that high point in February, they haven't really come down in as significantly as some of the other categories where we've seen some stronger drops in inventory. So we're heading in the right direction with condos, but again, keep in mind we're going into the slow summer months, and typically we're selling maybe 20 to 25 condos in the later months of the summer on average, and maybe a little bit less even this year because the demand seems a little weaker. But when we're only selling those many condos, we're not doing any favors for us, even with the reduced inventory numbers. So up 32.25% from last year in inventory. That represents 12 months of inventory right now for the month of June. So again, condos are probably the weakest segment of this market right now. Just a lot of active inventory out there and not a lot of demand. So I would probably expect that condo prices will continue to slip a little bit as we get into later this year, and hopefully things turn around in the early part of next year and we have a strong season for condos. We'll just have to take a look at it, but I fully anticipate we'll probably see a few more points of median price reduction for these condos as we get into the later months of this year. So that's the news with condos, unfortunately. Let's move over to the rental inventory, because I want to talk about that. We have seen the inventory come down a little bit. That's not necessarily because we are selling more properties that are coming on the market. There's still more properties coming on the market than are selling, but a lot of these properties are coming off the market. Either folks have chosen to completely take it off the market and just live in the property for the next year or so, try to sell it in a year or two down the road when the market gets a little bit stronger, or they're putting it into the rental market. And so we're seeing the inventory in the rental market climb quite a bit, and as a result we're seeing softening in rental prices right now. So let's get into the rental market right now. I do want to cover that real quick, and then we'll talk about vacant lots. All right, so let's get into the rental inventory numbers to start out with. Take a look at this chart. I'm going back to January of 2022. Look at this thing. It's just significantly gone up from that January of 2022 mark. I mean, consistently over almost month over month. We had that dip there right after the hurricane, but it's been consistently increasing month over month since then. So there was 866 total available rentals on the market. This is just the MLS numbers too. These usually don't include some of those brand new construction apartments that have been built in the last couple of years. And so I know the vacancies are a little bit higher in those. So we really have an inventory that's probably quite a bit higher than that 866. But just in terms of the properties that are available on my MLS system, 866 properties for rent. And remember, we saw the inventory for sale properties kind of peak out in that February-March region, and then we've seen some inventory come down on the sale, the for sale inventory. We haven't seen that on the rentals. They've just consistently continued to increase, and we were actually down well below 700 in February and March of this year, and now we're all the way up to 866, which is a high point for this last 2-year chart, 2.5-year chart. And actually in June of 2023, if you look in the middle of this chart, we only had 608 of these properties on the market. So we're up a full 42.4% in terms of active available rental inventory from this time last year. So a 12-month increase of 42.4% is not heading in the right direction if you've got a rental out there. If you want to get the best and highest dollar for your rental property, we're heading in the wrong direction there. But we're up a full 112% from June of 2022. So the 2-year mark, June 2022, we were at 409. So we're at 866. We're well over double the number of active available rentals on the market right now. And that's showing up in the rental rates. Take a look at this. So this goes back to January 2023. We peaked out on this chart in February of 2023, where the median price was $2,400. This is across the board for single-family homes with a pool, without a pool, on the water, off the water, condos, everything that's basically a residential unit, including duplexes, triplexes, things like that. Average rental rate back in 2023 in February was $2,400, and we are all the way down to $2,150 now in the month of June 2024. In June of last year, in 2023, we were at $2,313. So we're down a full 7% in terms of the average rental price right now from where we were this time last year, down a little bit further from that high point in February. And I don't anticipate that's gonna go the other direction anytime soon. Like I said, a lot of these for sale properties are coming off the market because these sellers can't get the numbers that they want for their property. They're turning them into rentals, and as a result, we're just kind of flooding the rental market right now. Vacancies are going up, which means these properties out there are having to compete for fewer and fewer renters, and as a result, they're going to have to start reducing those prices. So rental rates will almost certainly continue to go down as we get into the later months of this year, and that's one spot that unfortunately has kind of followed the trend of the for sale market. And now we're seeing some bigger reductions in the rental market versus the sale market. So we'll keep an eye on the rental inventory. I think it's going to be a pretty important part of our Cape Coral real estate market moving into the later months of this year, and I'll make sure to keep you updated on that. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. Let's get over to vacant lots. All right, so let's talk about vacant residential lots. These are vacant single-family residential lots. These don't include commercial lots or duplex lots or anything like that. But take a look at this chart. This is actually going back to January of 2020. Now, these are off-water residential lots. I'm not taking into consideration Gulf access lots. I'll briefly mention the numbers on those, but we're not selling very many of those, and so I think just including them kind of skews the numbers a little bit. But take a look at this. We actually had 83 single-family home lots sell in the month of June. That's down a fair amount. We were hitting numbers in the, we were 130 in the month of May. We were 115 in April, 116 in March. February was 142. So we've seen a significant drop off from May to June. We'll have to keep an eye on that. It may just be a one-off. Occasionally we'll see one of these one-offs where a month will have considerably fewer lots transfer versus the month previous and the month after. So we'll see if that bounces back up. I'm not really sure why that would go down the way it did, other than maybe just some of the production builders out there weren't buying as many new construction lots or vacant residential lots as they normally do in any given month. So we'll keep an eye on that. But overall, the lot market's still pretty darn healthy. This peaked out in March of 2021. It was crazy in March of 2021. We sold 511 vacant lots in March of 2021. So we're down considerably from there. We're basically back to where we were before all the craziness after the pandemic. And 83 lots off water transferred in the month of June. There were 18 golf access lots that sold. You know, like I said, there's not really enough numbers of those sales to kind of infer too much. But I'll give you the median price on them here in just a second. But let's continue to stay on the off-water single-family home lots. This has been, the prices have been extraordinarily consistent for these vacant lots in the last couple of years. And if you take a look at this graph, June of 2024, we were at $47,000 was the median price for these off-water single-family home lots. That's down ever so slightly from the previous month at $48,550. But there hasn't really, again, been much of a trend in one direction or the other with this. We've had some strong months, we've had a little, weaker months in terms of the median price, but we've stayed pretty darn consistent. I mean, if you go back to June of 2023 last year, the median price was $41,000, so we're up about $6,000 from this time last year. And if you go back 2 years, when the single-family home market was peaking out in terms of prices, the residential vacant lots median price back in June of 2022 was $47,900. So we're roughly equal to where we were 2 years ago. The prices have not really gone up or down in the last couple of years. If we want to break these down again by quadrants, because the majority of these lots that are selling are in the Northwest and the Northeast, simply because there are so many still left up there. A lot of the Southeast and the Southwest have been completely developed, so there's fewer available vacant lots down there, and we don't, as a result, sell as many. But in terms of the prices, again, across the board in the entire city, median price was $47,000. If you go to the Northwest, median price was $45,000. Pretty equal over in the Northeast, it was $45,500. If you get over to the Southeast, it jumps up to $85,500. And then the Southwest, the median price was highest there at an even $100,000. One of the main reasons that the Southeast and the Southwest have median prices that are so much higher than the Northeast and the Northwest are simply because we've got the central utilities down in the Southwest and the Southeast, and the vast majority of the Northeast and the Northwest don't have those utilities yet. Once those utilities come through into those areas, those Northwest and Northeast lots will start to come on a little bit closer to the Southeast and Southwest in the 80s, 90s, and 100s. So we'll see that as we get into the next few years with that utility expansion project continuing to push those utilities up into the northern areas of Cape Coral. But lots, again, have been pretty consistent for the last couple of years. If you want to look at the median price for golf access homes, or lots, excuse me, there was only 18 sales again, but the median price for those 18 was $232,500. Average price for that's usually going to be somewhere maybe in the Southwest without a seawall, extremely far from open water, or maybe in the Northwest a little bit farther from open water that maybe has a seawall. You can get down into the high 100s if you get a little bit farther away, but that $232,500's usually going to be a little bit farther from open water for that price range, generally speaking. If you want something a little closer, you're probably going to be in the 300s or higher, especially if it has a seawall on it. But $232,500 was the median price across the board for those golf access lots. Let's take a look at the inventory, because again, we're going in the opposite direction of what we saw in a lot of the residential market. Take a look at this going back to January of 2022. We've been consistently falling in inventory really since the peak, which was in September of 2022. There was 1,970 available vacant residential off-water lots in September of 2022, and we've come down a full 41% since then in inventory. Last month in June of 2024, we only had 1,161 of these off-water residential single-family lots on the open market, and that's down a little bit from the previous month, which was 1,178. So we've consistently seen a month-over-month decrease in inventory, and hopefully that continues, and we'll still see a pretty stable lot market moving into the remainder of this year. But June of 2023, we had 1,543. So our inventory is maybe up 20 to 40%, depending on the category in the residential market, whether you're looking at condos or single family homes or something like that. Well, we're down a full 25% in inventory for these vacant lots. And again, I think that's why you're seeing some stability in the prices there. These sellers are holding firm at their price, and buyers are still paying that same amount that they did, a couple of years ago for these vacant residential lots. So good to see the lot market staying pretty healthy. In terms of the Gulf access lot inventory, there's quite a few of those on the open market. Actually, there's 415 Gulf access lots that were available in June. And that's, keep in mind, we only sold 18 of them. So that's full 23 months of inventory there. But again, people leave these Gulf access lots off water and Gulf access lots. They leave them on the market for 2-3 years sometimes. It's a little bit easier to leave a property on the market if you don't have to do anything except stick a sign in the yard. So I'm not too concerned about the months of inventory for those Gulf access lots. Pricing has been pretty consistent for the last couple of years with them, as well as the off water. So it's good to see that the lot market is staying relatively stable right now. All right, so I always wrap up these monthly videos with some advice for buyers and advice for sellers, depending on what you might be in this Cape Coral real estate market. And I'll start out with just my advice generally to buyers right now, and I'm working with quite a few buyers right now. So there are still plenty of people out there that are buying property here in Cape Coral, and I anticipate our demand will stay relatively strong through the rest of the summer. So we'll see as we get into these later summer months how that goes down. But generally speaking, if you're a buyer in the Cape Coral real estate market right now, again, you're feeling pretty good about yourself compared to where you were maybe 2 years ago. We're definitely in a buyer's market here in Cape Coral. In spite of the reduction in inventory in the last couple of months, we're still at extraordinarily high levels of inventory, and that means you've got a lot of choices out there as a buyer, and you can negotiate a little bit better prices. We're seeing a little bit better prices being negotiated, a little more concessions on some of these things, and buyers are getting their rates bought down. Buyers are getting their closing costs paid in some cases. So there's definitely some opportunity for you if you're a buyer out there. I anticipate that's going to continue throughout the rest of the summer and into the later fall and winter months of this year. And it'll probably be a pretty good buyer's market until those interest rates start to get back down below 6%. We had some really reasonably good news, inflation numbers and job numbers here recently, whether you believe those or not, from the government, but they're going to give the Fed some excuses to maybe start lowering rates later this year, and I anticipate there'll be some political pressure for those rates to start coming down. So we'll probably start to see those mortgage rates start to fall later this year, and fingers crossed, all things go well for us. Maybe we'll even see them get under 6% sometime early next year. I think when that happens, there are, just anecdotally speaking, when the day-to-day, the people that I talk to, there are a lot of buyers sitting out there on the sidelines waiting to get back into this market. But they're waiting for those interest rates to come down a little bit. And first of all, I think in the long run, if you are one of those buyers, you should really maybe take a look at it, give me a call, and we'll kind of go over the numbers with you, because I think if you can get a little bit better of a deal right now and maybe get that seller to buy your rate down a little bit, you're going to be better off in the long run versus waiting 18 months for those rates to come down, and then as a result having to compete with a lot larger influx of buyers in this market. So good thing to chat about, but definitely I think when the rates come back down, we'll have some more demand come into the area, and maybe these inventory numbers will continue to creep down, and we'll get a little bit more of a stable market and maybe start to increase in pricing. Who knows, maybe next year. I mean, all bets are off the table if we go into a recession or something like that. But for right now, at least the job numbers look pretty good, and unemployment's relatively low. And as long as that unemployment rate stays low and people can afford their mortgage payment and things like that, I think we'll still have a pretty stable real estate market. So if you are a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about your goals, where you'd like to be, and I can kind of give you some one-on-one analysis based on what you're looking for, and point you in the right direction, give you some really solid advice on how to position yourself to get the best property possible for the best possible price. So if you are a buyer, get a hold of me. My number's on the screen. It's down in the description of this video. Again, call, text, or email me anytime, but I would love to hear from you. So with that being said, let's talk about advice for sellers, because it's a little bit more difficult to be a seller these days. Okay, advice for sellers. It's a tougher market right now. Again, the inventory levels are coming down from where they were, so it's not quite as scary as it was back in February and March, where we were seeing consistently inventory numbers going up. And certainly everybody's been talking about those inventory numbers and scaring the living daylights out of people with them. But we're heading in the right direction in that regard. Certainly not great if you're trying to rent a property right now, because those rental prices are going to have some downward pressure on it. But if you're a seller right now and you need to get out, you just need to price your property right, and you need to get it looking as best as humanly possible, because you're competing with a lot of other properties that are on the market right now. I always tell folks, people are going to decide whether they want to buy your house within the first 10 seconds of walking in the front door. So make sure that property looks tip-top on the outside as you drive up, and make sure it smells good and looks good the first few seconds when those buyers walk through the front door, because they're going to make a decision pretty quick as to whether or not they have a positive or negative overall view of your house. So get it looking really good. Get creative and offer some incentives out there to try to court some of these finance buyers. Agree to pay for some closing costs, maybe pay for a rate buy down or something like that. But the biggest thing you need to do is just really get a really solid price on there, because ultimately that's going to be what helps you to outcompete some of this other inventory out there. Frankly, it's been a while since I've had to turn down listings, but I've had to turn down a few listings in the last couple of months just because people wouldn't agree to price the property where they would need to price it to sell it. And I'm not in the business of just listing properties without having a chance of actually selling them. I can do quite a bit for you as a seller, but I can't get you more for your property than it's actually worth out there in the current real estate market environment. So price your property right, number one, and then get it looking as good as possible. Maybe offer some incentives, do some additional things maybe to offer out to buyers that you can start to court them away from some of the other sellers out there, and maybe even get creative and maybe agree to hold seller financing for a couple of years to let them have a lower interest rate, and maybe refi out into something a little bit lower in a couple of years when those rates come down. But it's tough to be a seller right now, but it's certainly not out of the question. We're still selling a fair number of homes. You just got to price it right, got to get it looking good, and do what you can out there in this tough market. All right, so my overall analysis of this entire Cape Coral real estate market right now, I think we're making some strides. We're making some progress in terms of our inventory numbers, in terms of our median prices. We haven't seen really any significant dips in prices. We've certainly softened in price a little bit. We haven't seen a big giant correction right now, and I don't really see a correction on the horizon unless something massive happens in the overall economy. Again, if our unemployment rate starts to skyrocket or something unforeseen happens like that, black swan event or something like that, you never know, and our economy takes a dive, we're going to be in a little bit rougher shape here, because we've got a lot of properties still on the market out there, and if we've got a lot of sellers that all of a sudden need to sell their home, there's going to be a consistent pressure on prices to go down. But I really don't see any of that on the horizon right now. I'm certainly not an economist, and if I could predict this market 100% accurately, I'd be on my yacht in Mallorca right now instead of sitting here on my pool deck talking to you. But nobody knows the future, but I think there's some positive things to take away from the statistics on the Cape Coral real estate market right now, and I'm very hopeful for the remainder of this year. And I certainly think once the interest rates do come back down, and they will come back down under 6% again, I think there's going to be more buyers in this market, and I think we'll be in a little bit healthier position overall. But we're really not doing too terribly bad. I mean, condos are really rough right now. If you're a condo seller, it's a tough place to be right now. But the off-water single-family homes, which is the predominant share of the market right now in Cape Coral, are doing fairly well. They've been consistently, stable in pricing, and the inventory is doing a little better than we were a couple of months ago. So there are some bright spots here. So I don't think anybody should be panicking. I don't think there's anything on the horizon that makes me think we're in for, a big, giant downward trend in pricing or anything like that. We'll keep an eye on it, and I'm going to do one of these videos like I always do every single month. And so if there's a negative trend somewhere, I'm certainly going to let you know about it and point it out to you. And I'm always going to tell the truth with you. But everything that I'm seeing, pay attention to what a lot of these economists are talking about. We're in relatively good shape in spite of our inventory issues. So we need to get that inventory under control a little bit, but as long as we're on this trajectory of it coming down a little bit each month, we'll be in good shape as we get into the remainder of this year, and then hopefully set ourselves up for a strong winter and spring season next year. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Again, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please reach over and hit that subscribe button. I'm going to do a video in another couple of days that's just a good informational topic that's going to give you some value, give you a lot of good information. So make sure you're subscribed. If you got anything out of this video, please give me a like as well. It definitely helps me out, helps out my channel. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that I'm wrong somewhere, or if you thought that I was right about something, or if something was particularly insightful to you. I would love to hear from you down in the comments. But again, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next video real soon.